Gracias and buenos dias. Now that ends my Spanish right there. I have to speak in English, for which I apologize. I wish I spoke Spanish. We have translators. I hope I can translate properly through them to get across a few ideas, actually building upon what Dr. Marmolejo said. I thought he did a good job of covering much of the territory. My background is basically academic. That was probably just said. 32 years at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill in the U.S. But while there, I was not only a professor, I was a dean and acted as provost, but I was the chief information officer, the technology person. So I'm bringing some years of experience from that. But, you know, about 12 years ago, some venture capitalists in America kind of came around the center that I had started, and I took 15 or so people with me. We started a company that's now part of SunGard Higher Education. I'm not here so much to talk about the company, but to say that my role in the company has taken me around the world visiting with other universities out of my own country. So I've been down here, not in Argentina, my first time here, but I've been in Chile a couple of times, been in Brazil, was in Colombia a few weeks ago, been to Mexico, and I see more commonality. In spite of all the asymmetries, and there are many, I see more commonality across the world, because I'm referencing also Europe and Far East and Australia and so on, in the challenges we face. You mentioned in particular the common good, higher education. Private good or common good? Well, I think we all say common good, and I'm going to argue that, but I think that's not the way we need to proceed. We need to actually act like we are a common good. And that's much harder than making the argument that we are a common good or should be. I do want to make that argument, but I do also want to suggest some ways that we can begin to act like we are a common good. And society will then recognize that. So what I want to do here today, first of all, is thank Yusal here, our host, and the many, many organizations that are backing us up. I couldn't get all those on this one screen, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And you're a wonderful host. I just love this environment. What I'd like to do, though, is begin with a few thoughts that I've labeled this way. The 1960s wisdom of two North American electronic media philosophers, one from the U.S., one from Canada. You'll probably know the one from Canada. From the U.S., Tony Schwartz. In the 1960s, he made the remark that education is the slowest form of learning. And he meant by that traditional formal education, what we do. Now, many of our students in this audience would probably today, 40-some years later, say, yeah, and it's slower than ever. It's still semesters and so many courses and credit hours and 4 years and so on. It's a pretty slow process. And yet they're living their lives, as Francisco, you suggested, in this new medium. So that's really the second observation, going back to the media philosopher you do know about, Marshall McLuhan, and his saying, or his quote, "The medium is the message." Now, in that time, the medium was television, and he spoke of the global village and how television is bringing us all together. Well, television hasn't gone away. No old media really go away. However, we have a new medium, and that's, I'm calling it today, the cloud. So if we were to update McLuhan's comment, it would be that I think the cloud is the commons or something like that. Now, what's the cloud? Well, digital people speak of the cloud all the time. Let me assure you, you know what it is. How many use Google? Okay, Amazon or something like it. eBay or something like it. Facebook or something like it. Well, you can almost bet that most of your students use all those things, especially Facebook today. I think I learned about a week ago on the web, never sure whether I can trust the sources, that here in Argentina, about 50% of the population have access to broadband networking. And of those 50, about half of them, that would be then 25% of the population, have Facebook pages. So they're out there actively using Facebook. And that's a pretty remarkable number, you know, given given the history and the context. That's a remarkable number. And it says that students today, that's the way they are communicating with whom they communicate. And even to some extent, learning informally what they learn. And we need to take advantage of that, as you have ably suggested. So what is this cloud? Well, it's just up there, and you don't know who owns, there's a company named Google, but who owns all those servers? Where are they? You don't know and you don't care. It's free, complimentary. It's very convenient to use these technologies. They're very collaborative in nature, and they can help build communities, and I would include learning communities. So I'll elaborate on that a little more, but let me show you a video for the moment.
Time stands still in my heart. I don't know where you are, longing for what I deny. Can we just turn it around tonight and do